Have you ever fallen so hard for someone, only to wonder later what you were even thinking? That rush you feel when you meet someone new, the obsession, the instant connection. It's not just meant to be. It's your brain on dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, three powerful love hormones that trick you into falling too fast and too hard. In this video, we're breaking down the science of love like never before. First, we'll expose how dopamine creates addictive highs that make you ignore red flags. Then, we'll uncover how oxytocin bonds you to people you barely know, and how serotonin turns love into obsession. We'll also compare lust versus real love, and most importantly, teach you how to outsmart your brain so you don't keep falling for the wrong people. By the end, you'll finally understand why love feels so intense and how to take control of it. Let's dive in. Let's start with the first love hormone that hijacks your brain. Dopamine, often called the reward chemical. It's released every time we experience something exciting, new, or rewarding. That electric feeling you get when they finally text you back? Dopamine. The butterflies when you lock eyes across the room? Also dopamine. Even the obsessive urge to check your phone, replay conversations in your head, or overanalyze a message, they're all driven by this one neurotransmitter. What makes dopamine so powerful and dangerous is that it's also involved in addiction. In fact, brain scans of people falling in love show patterns nearly identical to those of people addicted to cocaine. Your brain doesn't know the difference between romance and risk. It just craves the rush. And ironically, the less predictable or more inconsistent someone is, the more dopamine your brain releases. That's why we become more obsessed with people who give us mixed signals. They're triggering your brain like a slot machine. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But you keep playing anyway. Here's the trap. Dopamine doesn't care about long-term compatibility, values, or emotional safety. It only rewards novelty and intensity. That's why someone can feel perfect for you after just a few exciting dates, while your logical brain hasn't had time to assess anything meaningful. It's also why people can overlook glaring red flags or stay stuck in toxic cycles. You're not necessarily in love. You might just be hooked. So if you've ever felt addicted to someone or confused why you're drawn to people who aren't good for you, it may not be your heart leading the way. It's your brain, wired to chase the chemical high, even when it costs you your peace. Now let's talk about oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone or the bonding chemical. It's released during moments of closeness, when we hug, cuddle, kiss, or have sex. But it's more than just a feel-good hormone. Oxytocin creates trust, attachment, and emotional bonding. That warm, safe feeling you get after spending the night with someone, that sudden sense of connection after just a few intimate moments, that's oxytocin doing its work. It's nature's way of helping us form bonds. But here's the problem. Oxytocin doesn't care if the person you're bonding with is actually good for you. It just knows you touched, connected, or became vulnerable. And now it wants you to stay bonded. This is why so many people get attached too quickly. You might say things like, "I've never felt this close to anyone before," or "It just feels right." But that closeness isn't necessarily emotional compatibility. It could just be oxytocin flooding your system after a physical or emotional interaction. And once that bond forms, it becomes harder to see the person clearly. You start giving them the benefit of the doubt, explaining away bad behavior, or clinging to a version of them that no longer exists. You might even stay in situations that are emotionally unsafe because oxytocin is telling your body, this is someone you trust. What's dangerous is that oxytocin bonds can form very early, sometimes even after just one night. So if you've ever felt attached to someone far too quickly, like you were emotionally in too deep without really knowing them, it wasn't all in your head. It was in your hormones. Real love takes time, but oxytocin can make it feel like you're already there. And that illusion? It's how many people mistake chemistry for connection. Now let's talk about the most surprising love hormone of all, serotonin, the chemical that regulates your mood, self-esteem, and sense of stability. Unlike dopamine and oxytocin, serotonin doesn't spike when you fall in love. In fact, it drops. And that's where things get tricky. Studies show that people in the early stages of romantic love have serotonin levels similar to those with obsessive-compulsive disorder. That low serotonin is why new love often comes with racing thoughts, anxiety, and emotional chaos. You start obsessing over their texts, overanalyzing their tone, wondering what they meant, and whether they're pulling away. Even if everything is going fine, your brain still creates scenarios that make you feel on edge, because it's chemically unstable. This is why people who are normally calm and confident can suddenly feel insecure or overly attached in new relationships. When serotonin dips, your sense of self can get lost in the connection. You may start craving constant reassurance or feel like you're not okay unless they're paying attention to you. It's not weakness, it's neurochemistry. And the more uncertain the relationship feels, the lower your serotonin goes. That uncertainty amplifies the obsession, which can make it feel impossible to walk away, even if deep down you know something isn't right. What's dangerous is how easily this creates a cycle. The more your serotonin drops, the more obsessed you become. The more obsessed you are, the more you ignore your own needs. And before you know it, love stops feeling joyful and starts feeling like survival. So if love has ever made you feel more anxious than at peace, you're not crazy. You're chemically imbalanced. And understanding serotonin is the first step in breaking free from obsessive patterns and returning to yourself. Now that we've broken down the chemistry, let's talk about what it all means. Lust versus real love. Lust is fast, intense, and fueled by the very hormones we just explored. Dopamine gives you the high. Oxytocin gives you the bond. Serotonin creates the obsession. And together, they can make someone feel like the one before you even know who they truly are. That rush of emotion can be so powerful, it overrides logic, boundaries, and even your values. But here's the truth. Lust isn't sustainable. Once the chemical storm fades, and it always does, you're left with reality. And sometimes, that reality is disappointing. Real love is different. It grows slowly. It's not always thrilling at first, because it's built on consistency, safety, mutual respect, and emotional maturity, not just intensity. While lust demands constant stimulation, real love finds comfort in the calm. It doesn't need a dopamine spike to feel meaningful. In fact, healthy love often feels boring to people who are used to chaos. The most dangerous trap is confusing early chemistry for long-term connection. You might feel deeply in love, but if it's all built on a chemical high, it's not love. It's addiction. Real love begins when the chemicals settle, and the connection remains. Disclaimer: this isn't professional psychological advice, just insight based on research and patterns in love psychology. If you're struggling with your relationships or mental health, talking to a licensed therapist is always the best step. That said, understanding the chemistry behind love gives you power. So how do you stop your brain from getting hijacked by dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin? Start with this. Slow everything down. Your hormones thrive on fast decisions and emotional highs, but clarity comes with time. The more space you give yourself to observe someone, the more honest your view becomes. Second, journal your experiences, not just your feelings. What did they say? How did they show up? Are they consistent? This helps separate your emotions from their actual behavior. Third, check in with your nervous system. Do you feel calm around them or anxious and obsessed? Real love brings peace, not panic. Finally, ask yourself this: would I still want this person if the butterflies disappeared? If the answer is no, it might not be love, it might be chemistry. Train your brain to look beyond the high. Because love isn't just about how you feel in the beginning, it's about who sticks around once the high fades. Love can feel magical, but now you know, it's also chemical. Dopamine can make you obsessed. Oxytocin can make you bond too fast. And serotonin? It can throw your emotions into chaos. These hormones aren't evil, they're just trying to help you connect. But if you don't understand them, they can trick you into falling for the wrong person or staying in a relationship that's hurting you. Real love doesn't live in chaos. It shows up in consistency, in peace, and in how someone treats you when the honeymoon phase is long gone. When the chemicals fade, that's when the truth shows up. If this video helped you see love differently, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because love shouldn't be confusing, and the more you understand yourself, the better chance you have at finding something real.